Welcome back to Games Revealed and also to Steam Deck news. I'm really enjoying it, and so I'm going to keep on releasing these videos up until it releases, and then I'll probably do some additional videos, but it will be a little harder since I won't have my hands on deck. I don't know about that, but who knows? I'm in Q2, but I did reserve pretty early on in Q2, so, well, I do have one in Q2, and then I have one beyond Q2. Here's the hoping. Okay, so what I want to cover today is hardware, and specifically just some questions, a couple of pieces of the hardware I think that are just amazing, because I think this is a game changer just because the package and cost is so amazing. And before we get into it, can you subscribe, like, and also hit the bell so that you're notified whenever I release a new video, and then comment below anything that you're excited for with the hardware. Let me know anything that you think is just the coolest feature on the Steam Deck, hardware-wise. Post it on below. And then also you can go to onlysteamdeck.com and subscribe there for more Steam Deck news. That's going to be like a sub of Games Revealed. Or if you want just all the news, you can go from us, including like new podcasts, when we start our game news back up again and everything. You can go to gamesrevealed.com and subscribe to our newsletter there. So let's get into it. The hardware. So I would say the hardware is the most exciting part for me. Almost. It's really hard because we're going to do another one of these, which is on software. And the software is very exciting because really the Steam machine had to sacrifice its life to the Steam Deck, essentially. No, it had to start out and die. It started the SteamOS, it started a lot of compatibility pieces, even though we had Wine and some other things that worked for Linux for gaming. Steam Deck is, I think, what's really going to bring everything to light and make things much more compatible, which is awesome. That's software. We'll get to that in the next video. So, onto the hardware. I have a list here. I'm going to go through the list and kind of just say what I'm excited for. And also a couple of things, like, well, let's go through some of the key parts, and a lot of this comes from the website, so you can find it on the website, or some of the other news outlets out there. The touchscreen, 7 inches, awesome, and it's touchscreen, which it doesn't sound amazing, but because the Switch has a touchscreen, but the deck does. I think it's going to be nice. It's going to be like if you've ever used a laptop or like a Surface tablet. It's not perfect, but it's nice when you need it. And so I think for certain game compatibility pieces that just might not work with the joysticks right off the bat, but work better with a mouse, you could either use the trackpad or the touchscreen. And I have used that before on my laptop where I've had to touch it, or actually on my Surface too. So I've been able to get around things with touchscreen, so that is actually nice that they made sure that was included, because that could have been something they cheaped out on. And to be honest, maybe they should have for like better rumble pack, because I heard that feature's not great. So trackpads, that's the one that's so weird. So the Steam controller, I liked it. I thought it was pretty innovative, but once again, if I'm going to be playing an RTS, I'm going to be using a mouse and keyboard and not, the trackpads. But I will say, on the go, with a device like this, there's a better chance I'm going to be using those trackpads. Where before, I would have to use it on my computer hooked up to my TV or whatever it is, and my computer's not that far off. So I'd often find myself gravitating towards the PC just to play my RTSs. But I think this is going to be pretty cool. The gyro. So you're going to be able to play games with the gyro. And essentially it's going to be interesting because we see, I believe, Doom being able to be, you can kind of use it as a mouse and then shoot and use it like that. And I'm super excited about that because I've never really thought about that. And that could be one of the game changing features in the deck to be really honest, I find myself using something like that more than the trackpad, but then again, I'm more of a first person shooter. So that might alleviate my concern for the controller or the joysticks with playing FPSs, just because I'm a mouse and keyboard kind of guy. But if I can control it like this and shoot, we'll see. Maybe my arms will get really tired, but that's okay. It's gonna be fun. That's probably one of the big things that I'm excited for. I'll mention a couple of more because there's obviously some pretty standard stuff, but that's definitely one that sticks out to my mind, and I think a lot of other people's. The fast storage. So if you get the 64 gigabyte one, it's gonna be an eMMC, which is going to be pretty slow when it comes to SSD types. But the NVMe, which I don't even know if it's an SSD eMMC. I don't know that format or that storage type very well. But I know NVMe's are kick-ass, and it will be pretty cool to see those in play in the Steam Deck. It sounds like they work pretty good, but really what's so surprising is the SD card slots. Those are what I hear they do so well with playing games. The read speed is so good, and that is going to be what you're going to want to look for in an SD card. And we're going to get into that a little bit down further in the video. I'm going to have some recommendations on what I recommend doing hardware-wise for your Steam Deck, either in preparation before you get it or when you get it, right? So, NVMe, going to be kick-ass. You're going to be able to replace it, but you might not need to. I probably won't. I'll probably be using the SD card, but we'll see. The audio, I hear that the speakers are actually pretty awesome. Linus from Linus Tech Tips mentions that it's pretty awesome, and I'm inclined to believe him since he reviews so many different pieces of hardware. I'm excited for that. I definitely think it's going to it's obviously like I'm going to play with headphones a lot, and that's another thing that the Switch just didn't come out the box with. And that's one of the things I don't believe Nintendo's got the future in this kind of realm, in the portable realm, because it took them 4 years plus to whatever, I don't know how old the Switch is, to come out with Bluetooth their Bluetooth that supported wireless headphones, which it was just a software update. That's all they had to do. I'm sure there's some complicated thing behind the scenes that I don't know, but everything else does it. They could have done it. I'm not going to give them the benefit of the doubt. It was a really stupid move on their part, and I'm completely wireless when it comes to my headphones. And so it made it so I played the Steam or the Switch a little less. I'm super excited that out of the box, the Bluetooth on the Steam Deck is going to be pretty supportive of a lot of devices, including headphones and controllers. That's one thing, like, that will be nice. So if you don't like the form factor, and even if you're on an airplane, you can pull out a controller. You might have to get a case. That's one thing that the Steam Deck is kind of lacking, is no kickstand. But I think there's cases that are going to be coming out that have the kickstand. So I'll do a video or find some information down the road for you guys for that. But put it down on the tray and then just get out your controller and play it that way. It's defeats the purpose slightly of having the controllers built in, but if you can't do that for long sessions, there's another option, and I love options. So the next thing, we already covered Wi-Fi, wireless. Well, with the Bluetooth, but the Wi-Fi, it's gonna be Wi-Fi enabled. Nothing surprising there. That would be really, really surprising if it wasn't. But it has the fast suspend and resume, and that's a little bit more of it bridges. So that is software, but it's also hardware. The hardware needs to be able to handle the the input, or the software saying, hey, we need to suspend this, go into low, store it in some probably low energy cache or memory, or just the memories, just a portion of it's turned on. I don't know how they're going to do it, but to make it so that it doesn't eat away at the battery life, but your game's still suspended. And you can do it on SD card or on the NVMe. The problem with suspending that way, it will take longer, and maybe that's what they do. Maybe with the NVMEs, they're so fast they suspend it onto the hard drive, which is probably a good chance of what they do. But I don't know how fast it's going to go until it's in my hands. We don't know for sure. Probably that though, and I'm over analyzing it. So triggers, the triggers are going to be analog. They're going to have an analog piece to them, so they're going to feel very natural for what an analog trigger is. Like, so with the PS5 right here, they have some, give to it, and they're very, well, not give, they have some resistance, I should say, and they're not going to be as resistant as the PS5. PS5 has some pretty cool feedback on it, but it's going to be able to feel a little bit more natural to what controllers are like today. So awesome. So it's going to have the full range. From my understanding, it's going to have the full range of it. So if a game supports, pressure to a certain extent, it should be able to support that on the Steam Deck. The grip buttons, this is a weird one. This is kind of like the Xbox's Elite controllers. They have buttons down here, right? And so the Steam Deck's going to have the same thing. I don't use those types of buttons very often, but I am happy to be trained to use those more in certain games, and we'll see. That's one that I'm not sure about, but I'm definitely excited. I'm definitely excited for the performance that the micro SD card slot has. I will have to say that, like, hands down, I was thinking that was going to be a crippling piece, but they did so much optimizing, and I'm sure it's game by game. So the way games can work, and oftentimes don't, is that they can streamline a portion of the game on launch. So when you launch the game, only a portion of the assets need to get loaded up, right, to show the game, and then they can load the rest under the hood. We'll see how many games support that. It's smart to do, because a lot of games take a really long time to load, and that's the biggest problem with a micro SD card, is long load times. If that doesn't really exist too much in a lot of games, then it won't matter what type of SD card slot you or memory you use. And micro SD is going to be a lot cheaper and a lot easier to upgrade. And that's actually the route I'm going to recommend most people go, is micro SD. And then there's going to be a dock. That's also another piece of hardware. It's going to have a dock to it. It's going to be connected through a USB-C. And from my understanding, it can hook up to a 4K or an 8K monitor/TV, with the 8K being 60 hertz and the 4K being 120 megahertz, whatever. So meaning you're going to be able to get pretty fast frame rate with that input. The downside is it's still a Steam Deck. It's still small. You're not going to be getting 120 unless you're playing some really old game, really low settings. But I don't think I don't know. I'm sure people are going to really want that for competitive, for the competitive nature, but it's still going to be better than the Switch. You're still going to have better options than the Switch for competitive play. And we're just still not there yet. This is the start of, I think, a great thing. Maybe in 5 years, we're going to have a very competitive Steam Deck that we can play Counter-Strikes. If you play Fortnite, I don't even know if that's even competitive anymore. But anything that's competitive, I think we'll be seeing more of in the future. Just this is the first iteration. Probably going to lend a little bit better to single-player games. I do want to say, and this is one of the coolest things, the ecosystem is going to be pretty cool, like the companies that are supporting the Steam Deck. But iFixit, so Valve's teaming up with iFixit to make sure there's replaceable parts and guides to make sure you can replace your Steam Deck, right? So you can open it up, replace parts of it. I don't know what they're going to include. Hopefully batteries, analog sticks. Those are what's going to wear down probably the most. Batteries usually only last about 3 or 4 years before they start to balloon, and hopefully the heat dispensing is pretty good. It seemed like with Linus Tech Tips it was, but if some of you know the Razer laptops, they have horrible heat distribution and usually ends up heating up the battery and expanding, and so you get a lot of ballooning. A juicy, fiery pillow, right? As I think a lot of people say, where you can pop it and explode. Don't do that. Do not do that. Hopefully we're going to see some really good kits coming out of iFixit for the Steam Deck, and this is unprecedented in my opinion. It's not like Switch with Nintendo is touting any of this. They probably want you to stay the furthest you can away from opening up your device. Now, that being said, Valve did say you could die if you open this, which is a little extreme, but they showed you how to do it. They showed you through it, how to do it, and kind of what it took. I mean, it was heavily edited, but it's there. So for a PC enthusiast, you can open up your Steam Deck and modify it. And that is a huge deal, in my opinion. That is unprecedented. And Valve is doing great by the community for that. So I want to answer a couple of questions, and some of these do come from like PC Gamer, and I believe the other one is CNET. So, and some of these do come from the Steam Deck.com or something like that. Can I use an Xbox or PlayStation controller with a Steam Deck? We already kind of answered that. Yes, you can. With the Bluetooth, you're going to be able to sync it just like you would on, well, and especially if you're running Windows. I know for a fact, if the Bluetooth and the Windows exist, you can sync up PlayStation, Xbox controllers. That being said, with the caveat, this is the right Bluetooth version, and I believe it is in the Steam Deck, meaning it's the newest version of Bluetooth, and it's compatible, and it's back compatible too. So even if you use an older controller, as long as it's back compatible, you can use it with the Steam Deck, which is awesome. Can I increase the storage of the Steam Deck? Yes, you can, and we already did answer that. And I want to be very specific that you need to get the right kind of SD card slot. SD card. Some SD cards are very slow, and you're going to have a horrible time and potentially might not even work with the device. So I am going to have some SD cards that I'm going to recommend in the description below, and also on onlysteamdeck.com. I'm going to have a starter pack section where it's an affiliate link, just as a heads up, for Amazon, and you can buy through that some compatible SD cards for your Steam Deck. So I want to make sure that you have access to it, and then also you can help support our channel. Can I use the Steam Deck as my desktop PC? Of course. You're going to probably want a deck, because you could plug in the monitor, but then you wouldn't be able to, unless, I guess, if you have a wireless keyboard and mouse that are Bluetooth compatible, and make sure that is that's a key part. Make sure your keyboard and mouse are compatible, because usually they come with their own proprietary wireless system. It's not oftentimes Bluetooth. If it's gaming related, they try to speed up the latency so you don't have any lag. If you're doing the wireless route with your Steam Deck, make sure to check that it's Bluetooth enabled. Else, I'd go wired if you're doing gaming, obviously, and I think that's pretty standard. And then you're going to need a dongle, and we're going to have all this stuff in our starter pack on onlysteamdeck.com, so you'll be able to see it all there. We're going to have everything. We got your back. Should I risk buying Valve hardware? And that's one that I've answered before, and I definitely think it's a hard one. I definitely, if you don't have the money for it and you're going into debt for this, maybe wait, and you're probably most likely going to wait. If not, if you're Q1, I don't want to say, I don't like scalping, but you could sell your version of it for quite a bit of a chunk of money and then wait. I don't condone that, but at the same time, if you're strapped for cash, in today's world, maybe it's worth it. But if you're just buying a bunch of Steam Decks to just sell for a business, yeah, shame on you. But yes, you can. Yeah, in the end, I think it's going to be a good buy. And I think Valve is going to. Everything is kind of pushing towards Valve's going to support this for a long time. The problem with the Steam machine is that they put a lot of money and a lot of effort and a lot of engineering into launching it, and it did not do well at all because it wasn't priced competitively. The Steam Deck is priced competitively. It is yet more expensive than the Switch, but it can do so much more than a Switch. And I think that's a big deal on the go. We're talking about, like, laptops are fun, and I use a laptop on the go for gaming. I'm not going to use my laptop for gaming anymore on the go. There's 100% going to be using the Steam Deck. Even if I have to bring a keyboard and mouse for some more competitive nature, like FPSs, I'm not doing the laptop anymore. This is, at least from what I know. We'll see. Once I get it in my hands, we're going to live that life and find out. How long does the Steam Deck's battery last? It's going to last up to 8 hours, which they always say that it never does in a more traditional play style. if you were going to be playing really, really simple games, very non-intensive 2D platformers, yeah, you're going to be fine. You're going to be getting 7 hours plus, potentially, if you, depending on how you tweak things. That being said, I hear that it's going to be about 2 hours. And, that is what it is. 2 hours, if that's what it is, excited. Nonetheless, that's about how long my gaming sessions are anyways. Will there be a way to jump from playing a game Steam Deck to playing a game on the PC? So you're playing the same game from the Steam Deck, and then you put it to sleep, and then go to the PC and play that same game almost pretty much right away. Yes. And that's going to be really cool for us that like to play our portable devices in the house. And this is one of the things I do like about the remote play that PlayStation 4 or 5 have and Xbox, I can't remember what theirs is called, but is that I can play it throughout the house, and then I come down and play it on my main machine. With this, it's a little different because obviously you're not remote playing, which I guess actually you could. Guess you could stream it for an even better experience, but once again, there's always going to be that little bit of lag. I just always feel like there's always a little bit of lag streaming it. So that being said, yeah, they're releasing a special piece of software called Dynamic Cloud Sync, and I guess it's more of an update, not special software. It's an update for Steam, and it's going to make it so that I believe the syncing's on the fly. So right when you hit that suspend, it will sync with the Steam store or Steam software, Steam servers, and then you can go over and it will automatically sync. And I'll have to say, even before they released this feature, it was already updating pretty good. Meaning when I quit out of a game, it would update pretty quick. When I jumped from my PC to my main computer, it wasn't too bad, but suspending feature obviously is a big issue, and I'm glad they thought about that. That's pretty cool that they thought about that already. Now let's look at the hardware options. So if you don't remember, and I know this has been probably touted everywhere else, but you got, if you're in America, $399 for 64 gig, $529 for the 256 gig, and then $649 for the 512 gig. And that's in response to just what are the hardware options, right? And that one's pretty obvious, and you're going to be happy with any one you get, in my opinion, because I think the real juice is going to be in the SD cards, and that's going to be the gas. That's going to get you pretty far. It's going to be the gas that's going to get you pretty far, unless you're really wanting a very good experience, and some of you may, and no shame. When will Q1 get theirs? It releases this week, if you're watching it the week of the release, February 25th, and the first unit should arrive in gamers' hands on the 28th. Now, they're going to have a couple of days to claim it, and then it goes and defaults to the next person in queue. So that's where the most interesting parts are going to happen, I believe, is at the end of the month. At the very end of the month, we're going to start seeing those queues hopefully get alleviated a little bit, because I couldn't imagine that everyone that's on Q1 can afford it or just is interested as much anymore, even though I think it's going to be a lot larger group buying it than we expect. There's still hopefully, and this is for me, hopefully, some people that are just going to be like, okay, I can wait, and then bump other people that are more excited for their unit into Q1. So the next question is, can the Steam Deck play the PS4 5/5's remote play? And we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I'm not sure if it's on Windows. With these specs, I would assume it would be able to. So if you can play, as long as you can download their software and load it, I don't see why you couldn't. But on the Linux side, I don't know if they're going to support it. So it's obviously one of those things that we'll see. If you can, that's going to be a huge game changer for me, because then I'll be playing a lot of my games, and I probably need to get rid of my TVs and stuff like that, because I'll probably be playing a lot of my console games on my Steam Deck. And with that, you could even play it on the go. So you're going to be able to potentially make this your ultimate gaming device if that works. The Steam Deck being able to play remote play, I feel like we're going to need to go into this next question. What can you tell us about the BIOS, and does it allow dual boot? And from the Steam Deck's official website, it does say it can. It can support multi boot. So, and this is what they say: you can have multiple OSs installed and choose which one to boot into. Users will have access to the BIOS menu, meaning it's a full-fledged PC. That's what they just confirmed. It's a full-fledged PC. So however way you want to set it up, you can. That is pretty cool. And I'm sure it's because also like the motherboard that they got put into it, I'm sure it was going to already do this. So it was also nice that it's doing it. But that's confirmation that you can dual boot Windows and Linux. If you boot Windows up, you should be able to play the remote play. And because the way the AMD chip works, and it does support Windows, and it's not ARM, it should work. It should work. I would be really surprised. I'm going to say 99% sure that the PS4, 5, and the Xbox's remote play features should be able to work on the Windows version of Steam Deck. So you're going to have the ultimate device when you get a Steam Deck. That being said, graphically, hopefully we get a graphical upgrade to a Steam Deck 2 or something like that in the next few years. But this is, I mean, it doesn't get much better than that, to be honest. Will Steam Deck support external GPUs? Now I say it doesn't get much better than this. It could if this one thing was supported, which no, external GPUs are not supported on the Steam Deck at the moment. And I don't know what limitation level that is. I don't know if that's a Linux limitation, if it's a hardware limitation. It's probably a hardware, and it's probably has to do with AMD's CPU GPU combo, the APU, because it probably isn't designed to work for that type of setup. Doesn't mean that maybe software could fix it in the future, or probably more likely the Steam Deck, because that right there would be really big in making your Steam Deck your main PC. Now, that being said, I don't know if the CPU would be able to keep up if you plugged it in, but if you're like just gaming, that would probably, and you could plug in like let's say a 3090, potentially it might be compatible enough. There might be some bottlenecking on the CPU, but I think it would. I actually think it would work. So if there was support, meaning like you could play 30, your games at high resolutions, high frame rates, and just with one little device, right? Now, that being said, for some of us, I kind of need a better PC, just for, well, maybe not. Maybe I'm being elitist or something like that, but maybe the Steam Deck would be perfect. I don't know. I'm going to be experimenting a lot when I get it, and you're going to be able to see a lot of stuff on onlysteamdeck.com. So I'm really excited for this. Can I upgrade my Steam Deck? No, you're not going to be able to traditionally upgrade like the APU. From my understanding, it's going to be pretty much you're going to have to get a new device to upgrade anything major. But if you want to, replace the battery, if you want to upgrade your hard drive, your memory, all that stuff, even upgrade, let's say your sticks, your thumbsticks, yeah, you should be able to upgrade if they're available. But the graphical and the performance part, no, I'd be really surprised if anything comes out to allow for that. It's usually soldered into the motherboard or main board. So unfortunately there, no. Fortunately for everything else, yes. So, okay, let's get on to my recommendations. This has been a long video. I kind of did it as a long video because this is just a very in-depth look into the hardware portion of it. Okay, my recommendations are stack up on storage. First and foremost, make sure you're buying storage before it comes out and before you get it. We could have another shortage. There are shortages in hardware, like with, I don't know if RAM's having issues right now, but I know there's a lot of boards and other pieces that are seeing shortages. And so you're probably going to want to buy 2, maybe 3, depending on how much you're going to plan on playing. It really it all depends on how much you're going to play, what kind of games you're going to play. If you're only play 2 games, buy 1 SD card slot. I keep on wanting to say SD card slot. SD card, and you'll be good. I also, like I said, I have the affiliates and all that. If you want to help support the the channel, or just don't even want to think about which one you have to buy, we're going to have some good choices below. Buy the version you can afford to get. And that's my second recommendation. Make sure that you don't just buy the most expensive one because you want the best. I'm going to be buying the mid-tier one first, and then the upper, the top tier later down the road. But that's also because the way I got everything, and I also have someone that's going to be playing the second one. So it's not like I'm getting two, going to hoard it or sell it. I have someone else in mind too. Get the one you can afford. Even if it's the lowest one, it's still going to be amazing compared to not having one. Buy a cheap dongle for monitors and TVs. So they do have the deck. I don't know. We don't know how much it's going to cost. I don't know if they're going to upcharge. Usually companies upcharge a lot to make some money off hardware. I doubt they're going to, but it's still probably going to be like a $30, maybe $50 little device, the dock. You can usually for about $15 to $30, and I'd probably recommend going more of the $30 route. You're going to get a better device. You can get these dongles, and I don't have one right now, but they'll plug into their USB-C to HDMI or whatever, and you can hook it into monitors, TVs. I'll have recommendations below. Let's see here, and with that, with the starter pack. So I'm gonna be a shill. Fourth one recommendations is look at our starter packs and just choose one of those and just buy everything from it. We're gonna have ones from bare essentials to let's get this done kind of thing, and if you're flowing in the cash, I guess. If possible, this is my fifth recommendation: preload your SD cards. I don't know how it's gonna go, but with this option, I really don't know how it's gonna go, but because between Linux and Windows, I don't know if they're going to manage the files differently. I haven't really looked into this, but if you can, back up your games, or copy your games onto an SD card and into like a Steam folder, right? Just copy the Steam folder if you really want to just get what you already have, and hopefully you can find so when you upgrade your machine, let's say you go from Windows to Windows with a new whole new hard drive, you have to erase your hard drive and put Windows back on. You can bring your Steam library by just copying it onto a hard drive or whatever you want to copy it, and then bring it back. Hopefully the theory is you can do the same thing here. Hopefully, a little bit of hope there. And then with that SD card thing, you could use smaller cards to make it cheaper and segment out your play. And that's another cool thing about having multiple cards, is that let's say if you do a lot of competitive gaming, you could keep all your stuff on the best SD card for that. If you have a lot of 2D platforms you're gonna be playing, and you probably play those more often together, maybe on your cheaper SD card that the read's just not as good, maybe. So some recommendations for you. If you still want to stick around for just a little longer, I want to go over the specs one more time. I never went through them in this video yet. I did do it in a video before this. It is going to have 4 cores, 8 threads. The CPU is going to be clocked in at 2.4 to 3.5 gigahertz, and that's going to be throttling, meaning it probably won't hit 3.5 the whole time, or maybe it can with just one core enabled. It all depends on how the games and the device optimizes the play style, so depending on what the clock speed will be at. The GPU is an APU. It's part of an APU system, and it's AMD RDNA 2. It's going to have 8 GPU compute units. The GPU is going to be clocked in at 1 to 1.6 gigahertz. It's going to have 16 gigs of RAM, LPDDR5, which it's pretty impressive actually, and we'll see how good that really translates over. The storage, we've already gone over the storage. That's the main differences between the 3 different versions, is the storage, and then the top tier has its anti-glare screen. 7-inch LCD touchscreen, not OLED, which is an interesting choice, but from my understanding, that's a good choice because the battery life's not great. OLEDs are infamous for draining battery, and they just didn't have the room for that. Maybe in the future, but from my understanding, this is good. Like, our LCD technology is pretty good these days, so it's not a huge bummer, I should say. Resolution 1280 by 800, which is a weird aspect ratio, but with upscaling and some other techniques that they're going to do, it's not going to, from my understanding, it's going to feel like you're on a 4K almost because of the size. We'll see. I'm a little bit of a stickler for the resolution, so we're going to see on that one. The refresh rate is going to be up to 60 hertz. That being said, you're probably not going to want to run it because that translates over to your frames per second, or if you're playing a competitive game, the higher frame rate, like 120 to 240. I argue once it gets past 120 that if it even matters, but people do say it matters. That's where competitive gaming needs to be these days. If you're going to be really competitive, 60 is just still not there, but it's still better than 30, which that's what I believe most handhelds are at. So unless you're on a phone, I think phones are getting better at that. It's going to have a 3.5 millimeter jack dual mic with a dual mic, and then it's going to have USB Type-C with Bluetooth, right? 40 watt hour battery. I'm not going to go into the dimensions. Its weight is approximately 1.47 pounds. So it doesn't sound like a lot, but I think holding it for a while, we're going to have a little bit of a workout session compared to our Switch. So that's it. This has been a very long video. I apologize, but I don't, because this is a lot of fun, useful information on the hardware side of the device. Next, we're going to cover the software side, and that's another really cool aspect of this whole thing. The hardware is nothing like, I don't know if there's anything too revolutionary except for the gyro potentially. But the software does have it's a melding. It's a marriage, right? It's gonna take these two pieces to really make the experience great. If one of these pieces fails, we're gonna find out in a couple days if that does happen. We do have some hints from people testing this out, like Linus, that it's probably not. So we'll see when they open up all the games and lift the embargo. That is, depart from the embargo and see how it is. So thank you guys for watching, and if you made it this far, thank you so much. Make sure to subscribe and to hit the bell. Like if you like this, dislike if you dislike this, but if you dislike it, let me know in the comments why, and I will improve it in the future. And don't forget to go check out Only Stream Deck. Only Stream Deck. Okay, scratch that. Do not go to onlystreamdeck.com. I don't know what that is. Go to onlysteamdeck.com, and you can check out additional content pieces from us and starter packs and all that stuff right there. So go there, subscribe if you want to also get additional things like blog pieces and stuff. So let's get to this. This is an exciting time, guys, and this is going to be a great week, and I'll catch you guys next time. Later.